Jones, and he is here in Athens at the Clarke County GOP tonight. So, Vernon.
How y'all doing? Athens, Clarke County. You can tell I'm not a good quarterback, right? But since this is a football town, you scored. End zone. Since this is a football town, wow, I am honored to be here at Athens, Clarke County. Do any of y'all know Vernon Jones? Heard of that fella? Let me tell you, by the time the night is over, you can say, I know Vernon Jones. I felt the Vern of Vernon Jones. I am honored to be here. I want to say to the GOP chairman, let me tell you, now, I can't think of a more important time than now for the GOP to be ready to take our state back.
Amen. Your
leadership now is so critical. Athens, Clarke County can make a difference in what's going to happen in this state. It's going to make a difference in what's going to happen in this country. I'm glad to see you all locking and loading and getting ready to take back our state. So your leadership is important. And all these folks here are following you. I'm following you. So you have a lot of responsibility on you, but I know you can do it, Gordon. We need you more than ever before, so let's lock and load here and take a step. Okay, buddy? Okay. Now I'm going to get down to shucking some corn. Somebody know what shucking corn means. They start laughing. Y'all who's standing in the back, y'all want to come and sit down? Please come and sit down. You okay? I am...
It's a better view from back here, Vernon.
Okay. You know, I just talked to my friend earlier over at the Kia dealership, and he came out, and thank you so much, because I told you to stop by, you did, and let me tell you what I like about him. He's a hard-working American. He works, I'm not going to tell you what they call it, but he is a mechanic. He's a professional technician. And we were talking earlier about how important it is to learn a trade, and how many jobs are available out there when you learn a trade. So if we're going to make something free, let's make those trade schools free so they can go out and learn how to be AC, heating and repair, automobile, those type of trades, because there are a lot of jobs everybody doesn't want to go to college. And so I admire him and what he does. Now, let me tell y'all, I'm from the tobacco fields of North Carolina. Born in a 4-room, cinder-block home. No indoor plumbing. I was introduced early on to Sears and Roebucks and J.C. Penney's. They had my backside. I think I got some country people here because y'all understand what I'm saying, don't you? That was for Scott and Sharman and all those folks. My mom and dad were third grade educated. They were farmers. Their parents never saw a classroom, ever. My granddad and grandmother on both sides, all they did was make a mark. That was their name, they made a mark. You know how times were back then. But I never heard anybody in my family complain about how things were. They always said to me, Vernon, you can do better. We're going to make sure you can do better. And so they were farmers. My dad served in World War II under General Patton, 3rd Army. Oh yeah, you know about General Patton. We were raised as patriots in my house. That flag meant everything. That flag meant freedom. That flag meant the Constitution of the United States. That flag meant blood, sweat, and tears that our men and women shed from going back to George Washington's army. If you were living in Robert Jones' house, you were going to be a patriot. And even though this country didn't serve him well, he served his country. He never complained. Never complained. You know what he said? That this was the greatest country on earth. If you can't make it here, you can't make it nowhere. That's how I was raised. My mom, on the other hand, because I'm a Christian, by the way, I want to be clear, I am a Christian. I believe that Jesus died and rose on the third day, and he did that. He shed his blood so I could have everlasting life.
Amen.
Yep.
And I'm not afraid to say I'm a Christian. I'm not going to ever let anybody make me feel that's politically incorrect to say that I'm a Christian.
Amen.
And when I saw President Trump holding the Bible in front of a burning church, and his Bible happened to be upside down, the media focused more on his Bible being upside down than it focused on a church behind him burning. Folks, when we get to that level, that shows you how much people have abandoned Christianity. I am not going to back down away from that. I'm going to always be proud to say I'm a Christian.
Amen.
I found out I was on drugs, and I know my staff, they heard me say this many times, but I found out I was on drugs when I was about 8 years old. My mom and dad took me and my brothers and my sister, and they drug us to church on Sunday, they drug us to church on Monday, they drug us to church on Tuesday, and they drug us to church on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And any of y'all ever been to a black church?
Yes.
Long time though, isn't it? And every time the preacher said, well, I'm almost finished, he's lying. He's lying. Wait a minute, any preachers in here? Okay, I can see it. So, growing up in a Southern Baptist church, that was part of our culture. Our faith, my mom and dad, they taught us about the power of prayer and the importance of our faith. The other thing was education. I told you about my parents' limited education, but let me tell you, they did everything they could to make sure that their children got an education. And they were proud if we could just graduate from high school. And I'm here 2 generations removed from my grandparents who never saw a classroom at all. It could only make a mark, and I'm a college graduate. I have 4 of my siblings who are college graduates, and 2 of them with advanced degrees. One of them is even a school teacher. A male, by the way. A male, which is different. You go to his classroom, he teaches like 1st grade. You go to his classroom, he's like a big tree and they're hanging off him. He walking like this right. Those little babies love that man. They love him. But can you imagine from your parents couldn't even read till you got a grandson that's a school teacher with a master's? My point is, I grew up in a very humble beginning. And my parents taught us the importance of hard work on that farm. And they said if you work hard and you pray hard, there's nothing in this world you can't do. There's nothing in this country you can't accomplish. And that has been my motto. Hard work, faith-based, less government actually, because they didn't want the government in their lives, because government was disruptive. Still is. And we're going to get to that a little later. They just wanted to raise their family, get them educated, make sure they were instilled with values, and allow them to achieve in subsequent life. I was fortunate enough, I mentioned graduating from college. I worked in the private sector. I worked for Bell South. I worked for AT&T. I worked for some corporate companies. I served 8 years in the House of Representatives, actually 12 years in the House of Representatives. And I served 8 years as the chief executive of DeKalb County. I ran the agency about a $3 billion operation, about 8,000 employees. I appointed police chiefs, judges, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I've run a major corporation. I've run a major government. That's my experience, both in the private sector and in the public sector. Now, let me tell you, I've been a Democrat all my life. I was raised conservative, very conservative. You from North Carolina, you had to be conservative. I mean, that was the culture. And by the way, you can call me a redneck too, because I love NASCAR. And every now and then, most folks don't know, but I'll take a little chew. I will. But I want to say this. When the Democratic Party, or when I joined the Democratic Party 30 years ago as a young man, it was a different party than it is now.
That's right.
A lot of people in this room, whether you want to say it or not, you used to be Democrats, or somebody in your family was Democrat, maybe your parents or something. Because Georgia, Democrats were conservative at one time. And I left the legislature and I came back after a few years. I came back about 4 years ago. When I left, the Democrats were the majority. When I came back, the Republicans were the majority. So here I am. I come back to the Democratic Party, and I didn't didn't realize how much the Democrats had sucked my brains out the whole entire time. I was just a walking imbecile. And that time off, I came back to a party that was anti-law enforcement. How in the world are you going to be anti-law enforcement? You want to defund the police. You can stand by and see your police get attacked by Black Lives Matter and Antifa, and you don't say a doggone thing about it. Police stations burned. Federal courthouses set on fire. Police cars. Over 700 police officers were attacked during the real insurrection that happened last summer.
Amen.
And I saw Democrats around us sit on the sideline while that was going on.
Yeah, they did.
Still do.
And you know what? When I saw that in my party, I said, this is not familiar to me. That's foreign. And then, and speaking of that, just this weekend, 60 people shot in Chicago, including a female police officer shot and killed who had just had a baby a month ago, and no outrage from the community. But if there had been a white officer who had shot a black person, things would have been, I started to say S-H-I, would have been on fire. Where's the outrage? The Democratic Party turned their back on law enforcement. The Democratic Party now support children being injected with hormones. The Democratic Party support children going through transgender sex operations. I'm not making this up. I can't support that. That's not my family value. Wasn't raised that way. Be who you want to be. I was taught as a Christian to love everybody. But I am not going to get to a point where it's like, it's politically incorrect for me to stand up and say I'm a man.
That's right.
I am a man. And I'm not an alpha man. And I'm not backing down from that. Be who you want to be, but don't tell me I can't be a man. There's an attack on the heterosexual man these days. There's a direct attack. Again, I don't care what, let me tell you, be what you want to be. That's what this country is about. Be what you want to be. But don't make it now where in schools you're telling children they have a choice when it comes to their sexuality.
That's right.
That's crazy.
This has been taught in our schools, and this has been supported by Democrats. Y'all been asleep because this is happening.
Yes.
Two things my mom and dad always say: you got to protect children because they can't protect themselves, and seniors because they can't protect themselves. I want to throw in there animals. I'm a big animal lover. Animals can't protect themselves, but this is what's being taught in our schools, that you have a choice. Now let me be clear about something. I told y'all I was a country boy. Now Dr. Fauci, they don't want you to follow the science on this. But if you don't think there's a difference between a male and a female, then you try to milk a bull.
Trying to get anybody on the ticket.
Let me see you live through that. Again, this is no disparaging on anybody because I love everybody. This is no disparaging on somebody's orientation. But look, kids should not be going through that because kids, their little minds are developing.
Amen.
Their bodies are developing. You have to be 18 years old to vote and 21 years old to buy a pack of cigarettes. And you're going to allow a child to have to go through that? No. Now you raise a child, the Bible says you raise a child the right way. Even if he strays away, he'll come back. But let's there's nothing wrong raising our children the right way with family values.
Yes.
But it starts with loving everybody. So we understand that's the foundation, that's the Christian in us. But this is what the Democratic Party supports. The Democratic Party supports the critical race theory being taught in schools.
Yeah.
And what it does, it takes one little black kid and pits him against a little white kid. It tells the white kid you're superior because you're race, and the black kid you're inferior because you're race. And by the way, little black kid, you should hold the white kid accountable because he did this like he lived 400 years ago.
It's racism.
Look, critical race theory is teaching racism.
Yes.
It is. But the Democratic Party supports that. Wait a minute. Female sports? I want to see the fastest female compete in the Olympics. I was watching the Olympics. I saw those young ladies. They've been preparing for that all their lives. I want to protect female sports. Democrats want to see bio transgender men participate in female sports. Now we know that there are some differences. I tell you what, let LeBron James go and join the WNBA. You don't think it's going to be a difference? Because there are some differences. We can't, if you deny that, you deny God.
That's
God,
right.
He
That's
made us.
right.
God made us. But the Democratic Party supports that. The Democratic Party supports foolishness like mask mandates that don't work, Joe.
That's right.
Now, children being in masks all day long in a classroom, it's hard for us. How many of us in this, we have one young person I see with a mask on. Bless his heart, that's his choice.
That's right. That's right.
But wait a minute. Imagine your children going to school, and these little babies too. And they have to wear a mask all day. Think about that mask. That mask, your glasses I wear glasses. Your glasses get foggy. Those who may have asthma, try to wear those strings around your ears a little longer than 45 minutes. How uncomfortable it is. That's why when I'm on a plane, I can't stand on a plane. I would intentionally ask for something to drink and eat so I can take that mask off to do what I got to do. The Democrats support mask mandates? Where's our Constitution?
Amen.
The Democratic Party now, they're supporting mandatory vaccination. Wow. Now the government is going to tell you that you have to inject yourself with some type of serum. Folks, I'm not making this up. But you know what, sometimes they step over themselves. Here's an example. Y'all heard of the Senate Bill 202, the Jim Crow bill?
Yes. Yes.
You heard of that one? Richard, really a Joe Biden Jim Crow. But they said that black people are going to be suppressed from voting because they can't afford a free ID. In my 30 years in and around public service, I've yet to meet anybody, especially a black person, that said that they don't have access to a photo ID. That's demeaning, that's offensive, and it's bigoted. But wait a minute, remember I said they step over themselves? Well, if you want to mandate COVID screening, don't you have to have a photo ID?
Yes.
If you get the vaccination, don't you have to have a photo ID? And now you're going to mandate that. Well, look at all the black people going to be suppressed by that. Didn't they just say, Kamala Harris said in rural areas, they don't have quick copy. So it's going to suppress those people out there in rural areas. Really? You've never even been to a rural area, Kamala Harris.
That's right.
And if you're concerned about rural areas, take those billions, literally now, that you're spending on illegals that just come over here today without any COVID testing, and they can be positive. And you spend just one bill recently, $88 million on a hotel bill.
That's right.
Take that $88 million, go to every rural school, buy them copiers, put in their libraries, take one down to the fire station while you're at it, and then if you worry about them having access, then spend that money there.
Woo!
It is all people designed to put us against one another. That's why I look at this Democratic Party. It was designed to put us against one another. I'm pro-life. I was raised pro-life. But somewhere down the line, my brains were sucked out by the Democratic Party. I couldn't even think. And I'm carrying a banner for Planned Parenthood. Because the Democratic Party said this group supports women. And women need to have their choice. Okay, I bought into it. I'm carrying the banner. Brian Kemp passes a heartbeat bill. And I found out that his heart was not in the heartbeat bill.
That's right.
Because if his heart was in the heartbeat bill, then life starts at conception, not 6 weeks. Hello, y'all hear me now? But he pandered the pro-lifers and said that life started at 6 weeks. I'm going to satisfy the pro-lifers, knowing it's not going to pass. It was thrown out by the courts. But he walked on because he just pandered to you and said, hey, I passed that pro-life bill. They threw it out. But wait a minute, Brian, why didn't you have it where life starts at conception? I voted against it. Yeah, I voted against it. But I'm going to tell you when my brain started to come back to me, though. Dr. Alveda King gave me a book to read. And I learned about a woman named Margaret Sanger.
Yes.
And I really learned about Planned Parenthood.
Yes.
And Margaret Sanger said that black people were defected from birth and that they need to be weeded out like weeds. And she set out to abort every black baby and to sterilize every black woman she can find. And all in between, she would stop and have speaking engagements at the Ku Klux Klan meetings. By the way, she was a Democrat. It was genocide. But I have been carrying the banner for the Democratic Party. So, folks, I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me.
Yeah.
Now, some would say, well, can we trust Vernon? Is he going to be a good Republican? Well, let's think about it. Ronald Reagan was a Democrat, became Republican, got elected governor, got elected president, probably one of the best presidents we ever had.
Yes.
Sonny Perdue, I know firsthand. He and I served in the legislature together in the 90s. We wore the same jerseys. He was on the Senate side, I was on the House side. Sonny Perdue changed his parties, become a Republican, and then got elected governor. Nathan Deal was a Democrat, changed parties, and got elected governor. Bubba McDonald, the current public service commissioner, was a Democrat, changed parties, and became a Republican. Donald J. Trump was probably the biggest Democrat ever been in Georgia, in this country. He changed parties and became the president of the United States. And without a doubt, he's probably done more than any president has, Democrat or Republican, in the past 60 years.
And he was pro-choice before.
I think I'm in pretty damn good company. What y'all say?
What took so long?
What took so long? They sucked my brains out of my head. Because like Joe Biden said, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. Oh yeah, and he was best friends with Senator Robert Byrd, a card-carrying chapter president of the Ku Klux Klan in West Virginia.
Grand Wizard.
Grand Poopah Wizard. Can you imagine the conversations the two of them would have when a black person walked by? And he eulogized him, said he was a mentor and all that. Right? So, yeah, it's never too late, though, to do the right thing. And so, yes, I'm a Republican. I was always raised conservative. But Brian Kemp has taken credit for being the first Republican governor in Georgia. I want to mark through that, or maybe put an asterisk beside it. He's the first rhino governor in the state of Georgia's history. Vernon, how can that be? Oh, let's just examine the record. Let's be clear about this. Who brought Dominion into Georgia?
Kemp.
Brian Kemp. Who got scared of Stacey Abrams after that election? Oh, by the way, y'all, you know Stacey Abrams, breaking news for CNN, Stacey Abrams did lose the election. That's what they say, she lost the election.
They finally got their votes counted?
But Brian Kemp got in the back room with her and the Secretary of State and the Attorney General, and they changed our election process.
Amen.
Have we ever heard of drop-off boxes? The United States Constitution provides that the legislature and the legislature only establishes the laws as it relates to elections, whether to amend it or create it, whatever. Only the legislature can do that. Now, folks, this is Schoolhouse Rock. Legislative branch, judiciary branch, and executive branch. Well, the executive branch did that. Now, right now, House Resolution US 1 in the federal government, what are they trying to do right now? They're trying to federalize elections. They want to take elections over. If it were not in the Constitution, they wouldn't be doing that. But Brian Kemp allowed that to happen. Now, folks, I know Brian's from Athens. I'm sure y'all been knowing me, y'all been knowing him. But I wish he was here right now to at least take issue with what I'm saying. Let the chip fall where they may. But I was a legislator. That agreement was signed March the 15th of 2020 in the back room. We, the members of the legislature, knew nothing about it until November 4th when we started questioning what happened in this election. And I was the first one to yell for an independent audit in all 159 counties. But before that, minutes before that, I said we need to hold a special session. I sent Brian Kemp a message. Mr. Kemp, Mr. Governor, we need to hold a special session. We need to find out what happened here. We haven't had a special session, and I know we haven't had an independent audit. And look at all that stuff that's starting to come out now from Fulton County. Fulton County was a cesspool of fraud. It was a cesspool. Now you can like a person, but let's hold a person accountable. He had the nerve to say, well, I can't call a special session. That is not true. Our governor has strong executive powers, but he put a caveat. I can't hold a special session to change the election results. No, but you can hold a special session so we can investigate what happened in that backroom deal you all had, so we can make clear through declaratory judgments from the courts that the executive branch cannot take over elections. Do y'all know that the Secretary of State had a special committee? They were there to recommend which one of these machine companies we went with. The recommendations came from that group, and a lot of them were running elections in their respective counties. They were told, once they gave their recommendation, matter of fact, their recommendation was, let's keep what we have. It's better than Dominion. Well, guess what, folks? We ended up with Dominion. And you know who's the chief lobbyist for Dominion now? Check it. Brian Kemp's chief of staff. Check the record. And just recently, I was scratching my head because this week, well, actually about 2 weeks ago, the Speaker of the House said, you know, I think we need to have I think we need to have an audit, a forensic audit in Fulton County. I'm like, now, wait a minute, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate you saying, I'm saying it to myself, but where the heck have you been? Now you want to do it. And then he said, what I do about the GBI. Wait a minute, Mr. Speaker, the GBI has no expertise in this. They don't do forensic audits on elections. We can save them later because there are going to be some prosecutions because some people broke some of the laws. Then the Democrat chairman of Fulton County, who's been saying our elections were fine, he comes out and says, yeah, we need to have a 159 county audit now. They just recently, among their own independent audit, has a laundry list of stuff they're saying is wrong. So Brian was on TV this week. And he said, well, you know, I think we need to, I'll go along with the Senate who wants to do a review of Fulton County. As a matter of fact, Fulton County has a record of messed up elections. Matter of fact, I take credit because I find them the highest fine they ever made, that they ever received when I was Secretary of State. Hold on, special bulletin. You were Secretary of State, and you saying you bragged that how you knew how hard it was in Fulton County, and you bragged because you levied the highest fine they ever had, and the whole past 250 some odd days, you have been saying there was nothing going on in Fulton County. You, as a matter of fact, you and Raffensperger, or maybe Hamburger, have been saying it's been a perfect election. Hamburger went on 60 Minutes and said it was a perfect election. Then he wrote a letter to Congress and said it was a perfect election. But he did not tell y'all But the governor knew about it, that he had hired a monitor to monitor the elections, and specifically including State Farm Arena, which is the largest precinct in the state. And that man was there to monitor from November 3rd to November 7th. And Ms. Holland, he wrote a 29-page scathing report on what a debacle it was in Fulton County. But Brian didn't tell us that. The Secretary of State didn't tell us that. A little old newspaper, Georgia Star or somebody like that, found it through open records request and saw it. But now, the Secretary of State is saying, well, we need to take away all the powers from those in Fulton County because they're messing the election up. Really? What rock have you been under? And Governor Kemp, you're a day late and 12,000 votes short.
Yeah.
So folks, here's what I'm saying. You've been lied to.
Amen.
You've been bamboozled.
Amen.
Somebody made money off of this.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Y'all not crazy here in Athens, Clarke County. I want to take back this state. I want to take back Georgia. If you look at the tip of the spear, you'll see Brian Kemp. The reason why we have Kelly, no, let me back up. If the governor had done the right thing and put Doug Collins in that seat, as opposed to Kelly Leftover, we would have held the line in Georgia. As a result of that, we got Senator Warlock and Senator Way Off. But why is he afraid of Stacey Abrams? She gonna sit on him? What makes her the sacred cow? I saw that look in your face. I didn't mean that. Yeah, you with the blue shirt. Jesse. Feel you, brother. But you ever notice they don't attack? She's God or something. But let me tell you, Brian thinks that you all are going to forget this by election time.
No, hell no.
He does. Boy, I'll tell you one thing about my mama. When I do something, we out in the streets and I do something, she said, boy, when I get you back home, you going to get it. She didn't forget, did she? Now, we forget because that moment, we back to playing. We get home, we get settled in good, all of a sudden, here come those whap. Like, what the heck is going on? She didn't forget. Brian doesn't know that they're not going to forget on May 24th. Look at what's happening. Why doesn't he take a stand on masks, mandates? Look at what happened to Ron DeSantis. When they tried that in Florida, Ron DeSantis said, okay, Mr. School Board, after I've already passed this executive order, if you keep those mask mandates, you're not going to get your money. Broward County, all of them folded right away. CRT, he didn't kick the can to the school board, state school board like Brian did and say, well, I want you to urge them to not to teach CRT. Ron DeSantis passed a law and banned CRT. Where's our governor? Where's he stands? He stands with Stacey. But can I tell you something? What is it? Tony, look at me, Tony. I'm not afraid of Stacey Abrams. What is she going to do? She going to play the race card on me? She's going to tell me I'm deprived and suppressed because I can't afford a free ID?
She's going to play the attitude card on you.
She's going to make me think that I'm a victim and not a victor? We're going to beat the brakes off Stacey Abrams and anybody the Democratic Party put up. And they are so afraid of me. Because guess what? I'm able to do what no other Republican has been able to do. That is steal their votes. Because guess what? I am a black MAGA man. And I know that a lot of conservative black people who've been voting Democrat, knowing they've been taken advantage of, but they hadn't trusted Republicans. And I can understand why. Because Republicans have been able to win without them. But I want to say to the Republican Party, y'all are just fresh out of white conservatives. You don't have it anymore, you're just fresh out. Christopher, you're in the barbecue business, you're in the catering business. When you tell your client you're fresh out, you're just fresh out.
We're never out.
Well, go to Sauce House and get some barbecue right away. They got this new flavor called Feel the Vernon. Anyhow, I told Kelly Leftover and David Perdue, you can't just put two black people in a commercial and think you're going to grow the black vote. Donald Trump gave you a game plan. Donald Trump grew the minority vote more than any Republican in the past 60 years. And he didn't do it by making them feel like they're victims or the government's going to take care of you. He did it based on good, sound policy, created jobs, created businesses, allowed them to expand their businesses. He gave them independent freedom, and they had more jobs than going back to slavery. When Joe Biden stood in that black church and said, look, if you vote Republicans, they're going to put y'all back in chains. Really? None of those folks have ever been in any chains. And I know they don't know any slaves. But that was to divide us. But when Donald Trump went to that black church, he said to them, look, what do you have to lose? Yeah. You have been giving them your support for the past 60 years. What has it gotten you? Joe Biden wrote the crime bill, destroyed a whole generation of black men with a time that even matched the crime. When Donald Trump became president, he did more in this country. Prior to the pandemic, this country was on steroids with jobs and economic development. He went around the world and said, y'all not going to take advantage of us anymore. America first. America first. And then they call him a national, white nationalist. Then you may as well call me a black nationalist because I care about my country first. I want to put my country first. You don't even hear from Little Rocket Man anymore. And he had the chairman of China against the wall, pimp slapping him. But Joe Biden come and let him off, walk down, the chairman of China pimp slapping Joe Biden. He doesn't even know it. And you got Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, crying Chuck Schumer and hairdressing Nancy Pelosi. That crowd is the one who's leading. And I know my staff, again, they're going to say this, Vernon, you say that, but I say it because it's real. Because of Brian Kemp, we have, and I said this before the election, I said, so goes Georgia, so goes this country. And that's what happened. And as a result of Brian Kemp now standing up, being on the front line as opposed to the back line, or on no line, they came in and took over. Georgia's a red state. Georgia's not a blue state. Georgia got confused because we didn't have any real leadership in place. Brian calls it. That's why we got Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, and Joe Basement, Jim Crow Biden. When I see the three of them, I think about the Wizard of Oz. One has no heart, the other has no courage, and Dennis, you know which one don't have the damn brains. Right? And who's leading them? Not Dorothy and Toto. The Wicked Witch of the South, Stacey Abrams. Folks, y'all want to fight her? I mean, do y'all want to fight her for a change?
Yes.
I mean, do you want to take back Georgia?
Yes.
Do you want to stand up to CRT?
Yes.
I mean, mandates? Think about what's happening with mandates. We are not a communist state or country. Our Constitution does not say in an event of a pandemic that we become a police state. Where we tell you, Ross, how many people can be at your house for Thanksgiving. And if you have more than we tell you, you're going to be locked up. That man's restaurant right there is suffering right now because it's so-called plandemic, and that's what it was, a plandemic. Scaring people to death, shutting down businesses, setting up where people are working. No, they're not working, but they're drawing a paycheck from the government, so they make more staying at home than going to work. Yep. In the meantime, I look at Christopher. Christopher expanded his business, although they give him hell just to expand his business down there, the government. But they shut businesses down, Then they go back to Chris, who's struggling, and they go back to use homeowners because there's no money coming in the county and the city no more. And then they're going to raise your property taxes. Why? Because they've been scared and led by Joe Biden and that crowd. You better close businesses down. You better wear a mask. New York City restaurants say before you come in there, you have to have a certificate that you have received the vaccination. Really? Have we really allowed our freedoms and our liberties to go away like that?
Yes.
Yes, we have.
Yes,
Why?
we
Because
have.
we've been silent. We've been on the sideline. We've been the majority, but we hadn't said a damn thing. What's going to be next? What's going to be next? I'm tired of these folks, including Brian, who want to talk like Ron DeSantis, but walk like Mitt Romney. I'm tired of it. The Atlanta Urinal and Constipation is in a love fest with Brian Kemp right now. Because they know that Brian can't beat Stacey Abrams and I can. They're trying to help him across the finish line in the runoff, in the primary, so he'll face Stacey or whoever the Democrats put up, knowing they're going to turn around and cut his head off and hand it to them, and the Democrats take the Oval Office, Georgia's Oval Office, the governor's office. The last line of defense, y'all, is governors. Governors are able to stay the storm, like Ron DeSantis and others. When you lose a governor, that's it. Now, Brian, you saw what he did in 2020. Did y'all know, that bill they passed that said it's going to make it harder to cheat and all that? I mentioned to you about the drop-off boxes. The drop-off boxes were not in our state statute when the election was held November 3rd. You something else. Both of y'all. He said it wasn't legal, and she said not now. And you know why? Because they allowed, and Brian Kemp allowed those drop-off boxes to take place and be put in our 2020 and the 2021 runoff. Then they come back in the 2021 session because it was illegal. Every ballot that was received at a drop-off box was illegal. And they talked about how, you heard in the liberal media, the drop-off boxes favor Joe Biden. The drop-off boxes favor Democrats. They were right. Some counties, they just put them all in those counties, like Democratic counties. If you remove those invalid ballots, because they were invalid, Trump would have won by thousands of votes.
Yep.
And you know what happened? They came back to cover Kemp's tracks and wrote into law this past year drop-off boxes. Now it's legal. Well, wait a minute. If it was legal when you put it there in November, why'd you have to write it into law? Because it wasn't legal. But they covered it up. One of the worst whippings I got planting peas, but when I covered something up, my daddy said, boys, y'all finished, I'm going home. When he went home, we were literally ready to go home. We waited till he left right good, got to the end of the road, we took all those peas and just threw them in the woods. 3 weeks later, here they come, all over the place. My dad said, I'm not going to whip you for lying to me. Because when we went back home and said, y'all boys finished? Yes, sir, we finished. Y'all have any more peas? No, sir, we fresh out. Man, when those peas came up, my daddy, when he finished. By the way, the left does not want you to have a man in the house. Now, y'all can get mad at me. Black Lives Matter sought out to destroy the nucleus of the black family.
Amen.
We're working.
As bad as we need males, period, in families, they sought out to destroy that. Not only they're socialists, we need fathers, period. If you don't think there's a difference than having a father in the home, when my mother says she's going to whip me, okay, I know that's going to be a good one. She's going to wear me out. And I know she's not going to forget. But when she said, I'm going to tell your daddy, I'm going to tell your daddy. How many know what that feels like when she said, I'm going to tell my daddy? I'm going to tell my daddy. Whole new different thing. So my point is, folks, We have to take back our state. We have to pass a law to make, we need to outlaw critical race theory, not encourage them not to teach it anymore. We need to make Georgia a constitutional carry state, by the way. I'm a protected defender of the Second Amendment. By the way, did I tell y'all I'm black?
What?
Because blacks aren't supposed to be saying this according to Joe Biden. Blacks aren't supposed to be feeling this way according to Democrats. Kids today, they don't even stand up in the classroom every day and put their hand on the heart and say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. That's going to be mandatory. You want to do some mandatory work? That's going to be mandatory when I become governor.
Yeah.
Every kid's going to stand and say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Every kid. Because right now they're teaching them to embrace socialism and Marxism.
Yep.
And we're not telling them how bad that is. Socialism, they tell you how much food you're going to get this month, where you can live, if you can own a business or not. If you want to get a phone, or you're on a 5-year waiting list. Let them go to Cuba. Let them go to Venezuela if they want this type of lifestyle. They'll be back in a Minnesota minute.
They get back.
So, folks, governors are the last line of defense. And the Democrat Party knows when Vernon Jones becomes governor of this state, so goes Georgia, so goes the rest of this country. Because Vernon Jones, whether Donald Trump runs or not, which I believe Donald Trump is going to run. But when Vernon Jones get back on the campaign trail with Donald Trump, Vernon Jones can change the minds of North Carolina, South Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona. We take back our country. This is a movement. This is bigger. I mean, I'm going to tell y'all, y'all may think I'm crazy. There's a spiritual moment to this.
Yes, yes.
It's really good versus evil. I'm telling you. I'm telling you there's a spiritual moment here. I'm telling you. Look at where we're going. Y'all may be outnumbered in Athens, Clarke County in terms of Democrats over Republicans. But I'll tell you this. If y'all reach down and grab a little more ounce of energy and call every neighbor you can find everybody you can find, and let them know that our country and our state is on the line. And you come, I guarantee you, you will outvote them in proportion. And Athens, Clarke County can make a difference in what happened in this entire state. I'm calling and challenging Athens right now, Mr. Chairman. Sign them up. We're building an army. This is a movement. This is no campaign. This is a movement. If you don't want to live in this socialist onslaught that's coming, you better get ready. You know, a lot of Republicans stayed home in that runoff because you were upset. I understand why. But at the top of my lungs, I kept saying, go vote, go vote, go vote. Like medicine, it tastes bad going down, but it'll make you feel better later. There was enough votes in Athens alone, Athens, Clarke County alone. There were enough Republicans who stayed home in Athens, Clarke County alone that could have changed this election.
That's right.
Our country wouldn't be where it is now.
That's right.
Here in Athens, Clarke County. So I'm signing every one of you up. I'm signing you up. Take an oath to serve and protect. In this case, domestically, which have an impact with foreign issues. Because again, we take this state, we take this country, and we won't be taken advantage of by these foreign countries. And I'm going to say this, I'm going to answer a few questions. This morning, I'm watching CBS News. I'm sorry too. I kind of woke up cockeyed and I was I didn't have my glasses on, I'm pressing. But I saw where the U.S. is allowing folks to come from Canada to America. But they have to have been vaccinated. But every damn day on the borders of Mexico, they are coming across, not only are they illegal, they're not vaccinated. We don't even know if they had a COVID test. And we bring them to this country illegally. And I've been down to the borders. I've been to the borders. The drug cartel has taken it over. Trafficking of humans, trafficking drugs. And those agents down there telling us that since Joe Biden has come on board, that it is just open house. Oh, yeah. And those drugs are making it to Georgia. That human trafficking is making it to Georgia. Those gangs are making it to Georgia. If I were, and when I become governor, I don't care if I have to deploy the whole National Guard out there. I'm going to help secure and protect the borders. And with all this crime going on like in Atlanta, I can't wait for that. I'm going to deploy some troops there too. We're going to clean this place up. We're going to make it safe. Amen. Now, I'm going to answer some questions. And you know what? Let me tell y'all. Did I tell y'all I'm a deplorable?
Yeah.
I did tell y'all that, right? And I Walmart State. I'm controversial because I'm unbought and unbossed. I'm not going to let them take me off of asking for a 159 county audit. And I don't mean a recount, because a recount, if you count 50 ballots here, and you go back and you can count it all day long, you're going to get 50 ballots. But when I went to Maricopa County, Arizona, they look at those ballots, they look at the paper. And where did that paper come from? Did it come from one of the vendors that's supposed to give us the ability to get, or where we have that contract with? Is that paper folded? Because the absentee ballot has creases in it. Then, look at the markings. Is it ink or is it copied? What about the chain of custody? Chain of custody means whoever picked those ballots up of here, we need your name, your damn near your birth date, your blood pressure rate, everything about you. And the next person, same thing, including shoe size, like you just said. That's chain of custody so you can see what happened.
Right, they have to hold them in their possession the whole time.
That's an audit. Steve, that's an audit. That's an audit. Also get a chance to check and say, wait a minute, you drop off boxes, was that in the state law? Do y'all know that some counties, initially the Secretary of State told all the counties, drop off boxes is an option. Then he came back and said, drop off boxes, you gotta do, it's mandatory. You have to have at least one there. Do you know how many counties never use a drop box at all? They said, no, I'm not doing it because it's not in the state statute. Down in Coffee County, that little registrar lady down there, she stood up to the whole Secretary of State's office.
Wow.
She stood up to it. They sent 4 of their guys down there with guns to intimidate her. Eventually, she lost her job because she put pressure on the local government, and they fired that lady because she stood up. You know, that lady told me just last week. She said, Vernon, I made a video, I sent it to them. She said, I took a ballot and ran it through 50 times. And every time it counted that ballot like it was the first time it was counted. That's right. Absolutely. She knows what I'm talking about. So, this is what I'm fighting against. That's why I want to take our state back. We have to take Georgia back. It's corrupt. I look at the license. On those who got the cannabis license, 70 people applied, 6 got it. And one of them, the speaker's son, is on the lobbying team to get it. Brian Kemp put on the board, I think 2 of the folks who made the selection. I mean, wait a minute. There's a dead cat on the end of this line. Yeah. All right, I know what's going to happen. Y'all going to be mad at me. Y'all going to be mad at me. But watch as it come out. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution had y'all believe in Russia, Russia, Russia. But they don't want you to believe fraud, fraud, fraud in Georgia. Corruption, corruption, corruption in Georgia. Yep. I've been vetted. I've been investigated 29 times. Because the liberals didn't like, they couldn't shut me up. 29 times I've been investigated. I've been investigated more than any elected official in the state of Georgia. Because those liberals try to keep my mouth shut because they had an independent thought. Donald Trump got investigated. Why? Because the media wrote these lies and then caused investigative folks to investigate them. I'm getting too deep now. Let me stop right here. Anybody bring a margarita here? I didn't want it. I was going to get it. Ms. Holland said she won't want over there. But I want to answer some questions, because I've talked a lot. But I'm passionate about this. And again, there's a spiritual component to this. And I know how they feel about me, because they won't shut me. They can't shut me up. Mr. Chairman, you can shut me up.
How about, you can stick around for a few minutes?
I'll stick around.
Okay, let's take a couple of questions. We're gonna start with Mr. Pageant. John?
I got a good friend who's in the bail bonds business. He's not anymore. Ever since he was forced out of the bail bond business in Clarke County, the crime rate is probably triple or quadruple, and nobody's going to jail. The ones that are going to jail getting out the next day. What can the governor do about it?
Well, first of all, that's what these local governments have done.
Yep.
They put handcuffs on police and release the criminals. All right? Bail bonding, now you get in trouble, you don't have to go to jail. You just sign, you keep going. And if you don't come at the court, they still don't put you in jail. See, that's George Soros getting out there funding these liberal district attorneys. So here's the police are afraid to make arrests in many regards because they don't want to be indicted themselves or lose their own job. Then you got the district attorney who don't want to prosecute, and then you got these judges who don't want to sentence them. Well, they don't even make it to the judge's chambers. And what they did, they got rid of bail bonding. The no bails. They don't have to go through that anymore. Put these folks out of business and then let the criminals go. As governor, there's not going to be any more of these free bails. We're going to pass legislation. When you commit a crime, your butt's going to go to jail. And those who want to start this rioting like Black Lives Matter and Antifa, which Black lives don't matter to Black Lives Matter, money matters to Black Lives Matter. Well, you know who got help? One of the founders of Black Lives Matter. That black lady went and bought a $1.3 million home in a white community. But she did in a white community. She got 3 of them. But yeah, we're going to ban local governments from doing that to bail bonding. Not to bail bonding companies, to criminals. To criminals. Yes, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to cut my answer short.
I have a brass tax question. You mentioned about people stayed home and they didn't vote because they were not happy. And so we lost some critical elections. Mr. Jones,
Vernon.
if you do not win the primary and if you do not win the nomination, will you vote for whoever the Republican nominee is in good conscience?
Well, now it depends. If Joe Biden changes or somebody like that changes, I know don't have it in the heart. I'm not going to vote for a Republican because I don't. First of all, let me back up.
Of Georgia.
I don't know who's going to be the
Governor of
We
Georgia.
have not qualified. Not a single candidate has qualified. So I'm not going to sit right here and tell you, oh, whoever the Republican nominee is, I'm going to support. No, because I don't know who's qualifying. I have no idea. So I've been in this business a long time. I don't know who you work for. It doesn't matter. But you ain't going to get me in that trap. You can keep that cheese.
Shannon, question. How possible is it to decertify the 2020 election?
Well, here's what's interesting. Coffee County, when they did the so-called recount, the Coffee County officials had a discrepancy. They never certified the recount. But you know what? This has been hidden by the Secretary of State and the governor's office. How many more counties did a recount that they didn't certify the recount? That's why we talk about this independent audit to find out all that foolishness that went on out there. Now, to me, that's grounds in many ways, based on other stuff too. If it was a fraudulent election, if it wasn't, fine. But if it was, no, we have an issue there. Now, I'm not going to stand here and say that President Trump would be reinstated if they decertified Georgia. Matter of fact, I don't care if nobody said President Trump won anyhow.
Yep.
But that's why I've been pleading and been vocal to the governor. Mr. Governor, call a recount. What do you have to hide? What are you hiding? You were Secretary of State before, you said. What are you hiding? Why can't people just get their questions answered? What if it did? If it was fine, fine. But this is the first time we've ever had Dominion and used it statewide. Don't you want to audit to see if it worked or not? But you want to hide it? No, but watch this. The closer we get towards those elections, and his numbers continue to drop, all of a sudden he's going to come forward. We need to have an audit. No, it's time for him to resign right now. Matter of fact, we need to start impeachment on the governor. I'm going to tell you the truth. We need to start impeachment.
No. Wait, right here, last question. Okay, this.
Now, you had time me early on. No, I'm not going to do that because she had time me early on. We talked a lot. Let me talk to somebody who has not had an opportunity. She had private time with me. Yes, ma'am.
My husband's company, the company he works for, manages some buildings. Make a long story short, he was called into a building that they had closed down because it was on fire. Some homeless people and stuff broke in. He called the police to go in and help them, and the police showed up and they said that it wasn't their job. They weren't going to go in and back him up. He had to go in and clear that building by himself. And he's like, he called the company. He goes, I'm not going in that building with all those people with no.
Okay, where's the question?
Is there anything like a governor can do about that with the police? I mean, I know
see
it's
where
kind of
you're
sketchy. You know what I'm
ma'am,
saying?
first
Is
of
there
all,
anything?
that's a local government's issue. And here's why I said it. Some local governments, like Durham, North Carolina, they have fire police that all roll in one.
Right.
They can investigate the crime. They can go into a fire. I don't blame a police officer. He is not trained or equipped to go in and fight a fire. You put his life at jeopardy. That's the reason why you have the fire department. What I'll be concerned about, what I'll be raising holy hell about, where was the fire department? No, don't risk that officer's life. No, he's not trained. He is not trained. No, he has to get back home to his family too. Where's the fire department? Now because this young lady had a chance to talk earlier. I guess she left, but I talked to her earlier. If she's back, I'll come back. But let's get somebody who, because we got to refill her spot. Let's get someone who has not asked a question, in all fairness. Ms. Holland.
Hi, I'm very.
Thank you, Ms. Holland.
Two things. One, if Hollywood tries to blackmail you over things that are best for
Hear what
Georgia.
she said? Hollywood tries to blackmail me.
Over what is best for Georgia.
Yeah.
Stand up to them. And secondly, my daughter wanted me to ask, are you aware, she's a medical researcher, are you aware vaccines, manufacturers are indemnified, they cannot be sued, and vaccines contain neurotoxins and aborted fetal tissue?
Okay, so let me, the first one. I am not going to be cow-tied to anybody. I wasn't to her in her statement. I haven't been to the media. I haven't been to the Republican establishment who hates me because they know I'm going to replace Brian Kemp. I'm not going to be cow-tied to anybody, including Hollywood. Hollywood want to come here and do business, fine. That's fine. But I'm not going to let you start that cancel culture foolishness around here. If you do, we're just going to take your tax breaks and take your movie and get the hell out of Georgia. I want to go back now quickly, though, to COVID, this vaccination. I don't know anything about it. I haven't had it. If somebody wants to do it, fine. But there are too many unanswered questions. What scares me most, though, is the government is pushing it.
Amen.
It's the government.
Hemp is pushing it. Are we slaves to the state, and they can tell us what to do with our bodies? Or we're
No.
emancipated with the 13th Amendment?
First of all, our Constitution does not provide for the government to be a police state. The government cannot make you go and do that. Now, I know people have been fired from their jobs because they won't take it. That's the private sector. I think is wrong. But as governor, if CNN just fired 3 of their employees, let them try to interview me when I become governor. No, you're not going to get an interview from me because of what you just did to those people. And I also go to Coca-Cola who want to talk about this so-called Jim Crow bill. I would not drink I haven't drank a Coca-Cola since, and you know why? Because here they were, telling white employees to act less white. Where was Brian Kemp? Major League Baseball? Oh, you care about black people? Why you leave Atlanta with a 51% black population and you go to Denver with a 9% black population and you say you care about black businesses? No, you don't. Your headquarters in New York, Mr. Major League Baseball. Yeah. Your laws are more restrictive for elections than Georgia. Now, if Stacey Abrams can go up there and sit on the baseball commissioner, why couldn't Brian go up there and sit on it? No, Mr. Baseball Commissioner, you're not going to move Major League Baseball just like that without me standing up. No. See, we got to have somebody with backbone willing to stand up.
Would you build more state prisons in Georgia if you got in there? But nobody, that's like taboo to talk about. Federal, state, never talk about building new prisons so people won't be a revolving door.
Well, let's talk about this. Drugs, for example. A lot of people are just sick. They're addicted to drugs. and we criminalize them as opposed to giving them some substance drug abuse support and assistance. That's why I can't understand we're letting all these drug dealers come over for free and paying for them when they cross the borders, but we want to invest more in drug courts to get a lot of these people off drugs. No, what we do is house them in jail. I'm not for building prisons. I'm for building bridges and building people's lives. All right? This is a management issue. Yes. If they know that you're not going to be playing, if they know you come to Georgia, you're going to break the law. If you live in Georgia, you're going to break the law. Something's going to happen to you. A lot of it will go down. And some going to always break the law. I don't care. The fact of it is, I'd rather build people's lives than destroy people's lives, but you catch them early, intervention in schools. You can target very early on who's going to be a gang member. All right, it's on the front end, you'll save a lot more money. And I think private prisons, in some regards, can do some things better than government-run prisons. So I think we need to be open to seeing and how that can work, where it's more efficient and more effective.
We're going to stop right there. I would take the microphone away from you, but it doesn't matter. I want you to know I grew up in Southwest Atlanta, so watch out.
You've been through the burn lately?
We are so glad, all of you. I'm glad Vernon was here with us. He is all over the state of Georgia, and here are his cards that I think are available, and he's going to stick around for a while to answer questions, and so you just feel free. Jan's probably got rooms you can rent if you want to stay here tonight.
I'm tired, can't get a room.
We are so glad each and every one of you are here. Thank Mike for being here as well. Mike Collins is still here as well. We'll see you in September, second Monday night of the month. What time do we meet? 6 o'clock. Jeannie Seaver is going to be with us, and I forget who the other. But anyway, glad you're all here. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I just say two things? One, I want to thank you for letting me come.
Yes, sir.
Because it's your meeting, and I'm glad that you passed out the contract with Georgia. One of the things that I want people to know is about me eliminating the state income taxes. It's time for Georgia to eliminate the state income taxes. But I'll stay around and answer some questions to everybody. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Vernon.